Okay, we're good. All right, obviously, once again, we're going to dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance, which, boy, I sure hope we can get back to soon. Okay, on a roll call, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Graves.
Here.
Dr. Lewis.
Here.
Ms. Palazzolo.
Here.
Ms. Rankin.
Here.
Mr. Stelzer.
Here.
Okay, before we actually get going big here, I want to have a little remembrance of Coach Jerry Somerville, who died this past week, I believe it was. Coach worked in the Marymount School District, both at, I think, the middle school and the high school for, I don't know, over 40 years, I think, a long time. I know my own son actually had him, and I was talking to him about this over the weekend. And the one thing that he said to me, I think that really kind of struck, was that my son, Ted, did not know a single student at that school that had anything, negative to say about Coach Somerville. Everyone liked him. He was just one of those great guys, and it's going to be it's a loss. It's too bad. I would do the moment of silence, but I think with the giving these circumstances, maybe it doesn't work. So let's just remember him in our thoughts.
Will do.
Okay. John has requested that Jeremy Swader, that he's completed his 1-year probation period with the service department, and that he's recommending that he be taken on for full-time employment. He's got good things to say about him. He's capable of working on his own and covering any emergency that may arise. So John is requesting at this time that his pay go from the $21 an hour up to $22.68 as per the Finance Committee's approval from its email dated February the 19th, 2020. We don't take a vote on this, do we?
Just to move into full-time, not.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and, do I need a motion? All right, can I have a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves, Avia?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
Aye.
Ms. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right. All right, has everybody seen the minutes last meeting?
Yep.
Any alterations, changes, everything good?
There are two small things.
Two small things.
So when we were talking, what is it? So on the bottom of page 3, it's the thing about donations, 501c3. It's a 501c3, not just 501c.
Okay.
For that. And at the top of that same page, it sort of jumps. I think, we were talking about the 5G stuff, and then all of a sudden we got into paying the bills and asked questions about the bills. I don't know if we could, there's a segue, I think, we just at the top here, because it just jumped. So
There's a space missing.
I don't know. Well, no, it goes, we're talking about 5G, and then we're all of a sudden jumps to the bills, but it didn't say we started discussing the bills. I think it would be help just to, because it starts talking about street light glow costs all of a sudden. That's it.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion and a second to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second, all right.
I'm sorry.
Maggie.
Maggie gave it a second. Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Graves.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo.
Aye.
Ms. Rankin.
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, moving on to communications. You all have basically seen Chief Hines' report, Acting Fire Chief Tim Feitner's report, Service Department report, and Tax Administrator's report. I guess you guys have any questions regarding this? Obviously, you can contact them tomorrow. You can email them, whatever. Y'all good with that?
Yes.
All right, now at this time, we're going to move on to the Frost Brown Todd discussion regarding the 5G legislation. As most of you know, Rob and I have had discussions with them, and they have come forward with some legislation that we're going to it's going to be suggested that we pass it on an emergency basis tonight. So, Jack, do you want to go ahead and just give us a little brief overview of what we have here?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. Well, this area of the law has changed a lot in recent years. There's been some new legislation and a lot of litigation over it. And what we have before this council today is a code for small cell structures that would that's in line with the current changes in the law, and essentially provides a criterion for applications if there are providers that want to install these structures in the village, and it provides some authority for the village to regulate and minimize any impact, especially in the historic district, and to provide the mayor with the authority to create design guidelines, again, to kind of minimize the impact and, at least have a little bit more control in the process, or a voice in the process, if in fact the village were to receive a proposal or a request to install one of these structures. So the code in front of you, which I believe was distributed, outlines an application process, the process that the village will go through with the applicant for before they can get a permit and get approval. There's timelines that we must comply with, which are in line with the state and federal law on this issue. Some conditions for approval, and then a fee structure for these towers.
The fee, Jack, is just the permit fee part, though, right? It's not we've talked before about an ongoing fee. You said that's in the right of way ordinance. It would need to be in there, right?
So
These are just permit fees.
There's a $250 application fee. It's in section 5609.
Right.
So there'd be an annual or a one-time application fee, and then for collocation, which is adding on to an existing structure, there's a fee of $200 that's annual, and that's in accordance with their statutory citations there, 49390322.
Also, Jack, while we're on that topic, the village is entitled to, some type of revenue off of these poles. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, in that provision right there, there's a fee process there, and yeah, there's a revenue element with that, and then also with like general right of way, which I think we've discussed, but that's not a matter for tonight.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. One other quick question. I have an email here from a resident, Susan Page, and she's very concerned about the one aspect of this under the design guidelines section. And you and I had a discussion earlier today about that. Let me just say that I'm going to be working with MPF on this and other residents to try to put together. And we also have the examples that you've supplied from a couple from Dublin, Ohio, I think it is, Canal Winchester. These are some of the examples that you provided us. So we will be working to come up with design guidelines. And as I understand it, this will not become an amendment to this document. It just becomes part of it in some way. How does that work exactly?
That's right. Yeah. So this ordinance would authorize the mayor and the administration to create these design guidelines. And so then through that authority, you would create the guidelines.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, I think it makes sense to, get with MPF and any other interested parties, and
yes,
anybody who could provide good advice to the village on this issue. I think it's worthwhile to listen to that and make sure that, the guidelines are in line with, what, residents and the community really wants.
Yeah, some of the concerns surrounding this, obviously they run the gamut from, strictly safety concerns, all the way to just aesthetic concerns. And we want to give, as many residents an opportunity to voice those concerns. So that's what we're going to be doing.
So Jack, just a quick question to make sure I understand though too. So if somebody comes in and puts an application in before the design guidelines are finished, are they grandfathered from not having to follow the guidelines? How does that work? I'm just wondering if we need to have the same sense of urgency that we have on this ordinance, have the same sense of urgency on the guidelines. So make sure those are in place and ready to go before an official application.
I think it would suit the village to get the guidelines done promptly. Upon approval of the ordinance, this process would be in effect, but, if the application is going to be subject to the guidelines, it makes sense to have those done quickly. So I'm not certain that we can wait, let's say we get an application tomorrow for a structure. I'm not certain that the village can wait for a long period of time and kind of, have it, going through a process, multiple drafts and changes of the guidelines and, continue, even if that goes past the timeline for, the condition or the approval of the application. So I think in short, it makes sense to promptly get the guidelines put together.
As I said, I've already basically initiated discussions with MPF and others, and this is something that I do not intend to wait on this. I'll be moving forward with this almost immediately. So
Sure.
Yeah, I already, I talked to Rob and Bill about distributing the guidelines that you gave us, Jack, from Dublin and Canal Winchester to MPF. So there are already a couple people who are looking at that and very interested, and it was already a topic of discussion even before we moved forward with this legislation. So they're already, there and working. We just need to tell them that it needs to be done quickly.
So it won't be done in committee then?
Well, that was something that I was going to raise that issue tonight. Possibly this. I was going to sort of get your all opinion on this. I had initially thought that possibly this should be done in a committee. Yes, because we want to basically hold an open public meeting, open to all on this. Other than me just sort of arranging, a little meeting here and a little meeting there and sort of trying to collect together all of the ideas. Where do you think this should go? Would this go in?
This sounds like a committee of the whole type thing to me.
So, originally when we had the discussion, and when I referred it to Public Works for our ordinance, for our, last safety committee, and I see when it moved over to Public Works, the naming's not right. So if it stays there, we just need to adjust it. I think it was thinking that committee of the whole might be too many people in the pot, but, hearing what you're talking about, that might potentially make sense, but I think it's either Public Works or committee of the whole.
Yeah, there's so many angles to this that maybe it's best to start with committee of the whole, and as we break it down into pieces, into manageable pieces, we can put it in one committee or, two committees or whatever, but I think we need to.
Well, let me make one suggestion, because time is of the essence on this. And committee of the whole is great, but I think Avi is really making a good point here. There may be too many fingers in the pot. I think, Kelly, I hate to do this to you because I know you've got a lot of stuff in your committee, but say
it out loud, Bill, say it out loud.
You've already basically got the safety issue in there. And I do think a lot of residents are going to want to come in and express concerns regarding safety. So,
well, I don't think we should name it safety. And that would be one of my things. I think it should just be 5G installation or however we want to name it. But I feel like from the safety, perspective, we address it the best that we can. Now I think it's more of moving on to the other components of it. So I think we should rename it.
I agree.
And I agree with that. However, we need to figure out how we do address the safety aspects of it. As far as putting in Public Works and getting the, working with MPF and getting this aspect of it going, that's fine. But that people are still going to want to talk about the safety aspect of it.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But I just don't think we should call it
To be
safety.
prepared for that. I'm just saying we need to be prepared for that.
Just take the word safety out. How about, because it just says 5G. What does it say?
Sure, I get that, but I'm saying we need
Implementations.
to plan for, okay, so let's just do the scenario. It's in Public Works, we take the safety out, that's all well and good, that's fine. If a resident comes in and says, we need to talk about the safety aspect of that, how do we do that?
I think we still address it in that committee, and that's fine. But I'm just saying, I just didn't think we should call it safety. That's all.
Well, again, I think you could sit there and say we've already looked at the safety aspect. That part has been dealt with. And so.
We did.
I think that's true because there's no conclusive research
There isn't.
one way or the other. And so talking about it forever is not going to change that until
Agreed.
science has time to prove something one way or the other. And we don't have time to wait for that. So we basically did the relevant safety work to the ability that we have, and then, so we have to say, we dealt with that. This is where we are now and we're discussing.
But listen, guys, I can assure you that there's many residents here who do not feel that the issue of safety has been properly aired because they haven't really had a chance to publicly air their thoughts on this. And they are going to raise this issue of safety.
And they,
Well, I did, in my safety committee meeting. I mean, the emails that I had got and received with the questions, I read them out loud and we, addressed them the best that we could based off of the information that's out there.
Now, I'm not faulting you, Avi. I'm not faulting you. It's just the way that we've been having to run the meetings is all.
Well, I mean, they were publicly noticed and we solicited feedback and input. I mean, it's the same as if people had been able to come to a meeting, they just didn't come to a meeting.
well, and the other thing that we've talked about this is the FCC has already given their approval. We can't sit there and say
We
no.
can't undo that, right?
So, but again, they can, if they want to discuss it again, if they want to present their emails again or whatever, that's totally good too. I mean, but the FCC has already laid down the laws, really, literally. From what the research that Ed shared with us, they've really laid down the law already on this stuff. So,
Yeah, all I'm really saying is that we just want to provide the opportunity for these folks to come and air their thoughts and their beliefs.
Yep.
It's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
they will come into this
Sure.
meeting and they will raise this issue.
and one other thing, just to clarify, I mean, again, we can put, these can always get updated. The design guidelines can always be updated. So,
Yeah.
getting something quickly in place, as we were just talking about, is important. And then if we get new data or whatever else, we can always come back and update.
Well,
So,
and I think we could, kind of do what we did with the demolition is MPF can come up with a set of recommendations and submit them to, the Public Works Committee. And we could probably, and then we can go from there.
can they do that in the next couple of weeks?
Well, we'd have to get them to set up a kind of task force. I know Eileen is interested in that. And of course, obviously with her ties with the building department, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to get like 10 people on it. I think
Right.
Mary Beth York is interested. I can, reach out to Rex tomorrow and ask him to get that going.
Yeah, because again, as Bill has said many times, this is really time is of the essence here. type of
Right.
thing. So I think it's great to get their input. Totally agree. But we just need them to move quickly on
So we
this.
just say, hey, can you get us a set of recommendations in a week? Is that reasonable? Ask.
Yeah,
Is that too much time? Not enough time?
I think a week is good because then we can set a meeting. It doesn't seem like a one meeting deal.
No, you're right there, Maggie. I think this may not be a one meeting deal.
Like I think, and it's hard to have a meeting on Monday and another on Friday for everybody, for the committee members and community and everybody else. So maybe we do, I mean, it might be up to 3
Say
meetings.
hi to
Get
Piper.
their input in like a week and
Piper.
then have a couple meetings. Is that your vote?
Just so everybody understands, we have to move this along. And I think we're all on the same page about that.
yeah.
I mean, I think a week sounds great.
Yeah.
If we-
All right.
All
Well,
right, well, I'll reach
Okay,
out to Rex.
Can I just ask 2 quick questions? So Jack, I just want to make sure there's nothing in this proposed ordinance that's going to keep us from being able to charge a market rent for these 5G installations if they go in? Or
Like this-
are we even allowed to charge a market rent on a public right of way?
Specifically for the 5G small cell tower,
Yes.
I don't think this has anything in there for a rent other than an annual fee, which is in 5609 B.
So
And that's only in, for collocation.
Okay,
So-
so is that the only fees we're allowed to collect on this, or can we go and charge a market rent for the occupation?
Jack, what you said, what you shared with me before, Jack, is that's in the different ordinance. That's in the right of way management. document. So that's been sent out to us separately as well, Dublin and Canal Winchester.
Right.
And that's a separate place that you put that in, because it's not just for mini cell towers. It's for anything going into the right of way. So you want to have that kind of fee that you can charge on an annual basis to anything that goes in there.
So this is a little bit different because this is just pertaining to small cells, but still the general right-of-way ordinance, which is what you're talking about, Rob, has some more authority, or, can have some more authority. But it's a little bit of a different issue.
All right, do we need to do a right-of-way ordinance? Do we have one already on within the code?
No, I think we're working on that.
We're working on that, but this was the sense of urgency, this one we're looking at tonight.
Okay, so can we, the next meeting, get the right-of-way ordinance passed? Because I would like to get that in place. If somebody's going to come in and propose something, I'd like to have that right-of-way ordinance. And so if we can get market rent, that we've got the capability to do it.
There's a timing aspect with the general right-of-way ordinance. And this is not my area of specialty, but I believe there's a notice period of like a month or 45 days that you have to meet for that. So, but we can certainly help out with that if you want, and provide some information or a quote and some examples. We already did provide some examples, I believe.
You
Yes.
did.
Yeah.
So the next step for that sounds like, Jack, if you can provide us a quote, what would it cost to put the right of way?
Sure. I was hoping to have that for you tonight. My colleague Thad Boggs, who assisted with the guidelines here, as some of you know, he is on the clock for baby watch. So his wife was due. He has twins that are 3, and his wife was due with their 3rd today. And I have not heard from him today, so I'm thinking about him and wishing him well. So, but I will get some more information on that as soon as I can for your consideration.
Okay, and my second question is isn't there generally a 30-day waiting period before an ordinance becomes effective?
Unless we suspend it.
Well, and I think that's what Ed sent. Ed sent a separate one that Joni forwarded to all of us. There's a separate one that took Jack's original work and added the section 3 that declares it an emergency. So Joni sent that later this afternoon. Is when
Okay, and that goes into effect immediately then?
Yes.
It says it right
Okay.
in there. Will go into effect immediately.
Okay, very good. Those are my 2 questions. Thanks.
All right, so moving on, Tony, can we have the first reading then, please? Yeah, we're going to do it now.
Do we have a number for this ordinance by any chance, Joni?
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right, so ordinance O-blank-20.
Yes.
An ordinance amending Title 5 of the codified ordinances of the Village of Marymount by enacting Chapter 56 relative to installation of small cell facilities and wireless support structures in village right-of-way and to declare emergency.
All right, you've heard the first reading. I need a motion and a second to suspend the rules and allow for the second and third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Did you get that? All right, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo.
Aye.
Ms. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, the second reading, Tony, please.
All right, an ordinance amending Title 5 of the codified ordinances of the Village of Marymount by enacting Chapter 56 relative to installation of small cell facilities and wireless support structures in village right-of-ways and to declare emergency.
All right, I think we've already had the sufficient discussion. Any other comments anybody wants to add? If not, let's have the third reading, please, Tony.
All right, an ordinance amending Title 5 of the codified ordinances of the Village of Marymount by enacting Chapter 56 relative to installation of small cell facilities and wireless support structures in village right-of-ways and to declare emergency.
All right, I need a motion and a second to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Avi, I think. Yeah. All right, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
Aye.
Ms. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, I need a motion and a second to invoke the emergency clause, please.
So moved.
Rob has the motion, so do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Kelly. All right, on roll call, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, the resolution will be adopted. Okay, now under permission to address council, as I said, I already covered Susan Page's email in the prior discussion, but we have with us tonight Tim Feitner, who would like to say a few words to us. I'm going to have him come around here to the side, and y'all be able to see him right here. Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
You good?
I'll try to keep this short and sweet, stay under the allotted 3 minutes. I wanted to come to you tonight and talk about the looming budget issue that has been broadcast over the last few months. Some of the things we're dealing with here in the village are a lot of morale issues with this currently, not only in the fire department itself, but across the village. There's other people that kind of feel the same way that I do. I just think that they're a little shy to come forward and bring this up. So I wanted to approach you tonight. I've been at this village for 21 years, basically half of my life I've worked here. And through that time, I've seen good times and bad times. And currently, I'm not a budget person, but I don't think it's as bad as it's being made out to be. I think that this fear has been dispersed amongst all the employees, and it's really having an effect on the operations of the village currently. Last time I checked, no disrespect to anybody with any of the knowledge or backgrounds that you have, but Tony has been elected to handle this position. Throughout this entire thing, I have not heard one word from Tony, and I respect that man. He has been able to tell us when we need to worry, when we don't need to worry. So what I'm asking is if we can kind of bring this together somehow, some way, and curb this, whether we need to have an open discussion with some of the employees and let them bring forth ideas. I can assure you there's no wrongful spending, maybe that's the wrong word, going on in any of the departments. We're basically using duct tape and Band-Aids right now, trying to conserve electricity when we can to save on the budgets. Most recently I was able to get a purchase that we had made for that Lucas device reimbursed. So all of that money's coming back to us now so that it can be used for something else. But it's that time that we can no longer continue to operate this way. It's a difficult thing for me to manage 45 people. And many of you may not know, I'm doing the job of what 5 full-time guys used to do. So coming in here day in and day out, trying to help with the morale in the police department, the maintenance department, the administration, things like that. I think we need to seriously talk about this, see where we're at. And, I'll just say it. The biggest problem is that we're working off old money. From my knowledge, we haven't had a general levy increase since 1993. So I know none of us could live on what we made in 1993, the way we live today, provide for our families and our children. So I ask that somehow, some way we can come together, come up with one way, whether it be Tony disseminates to Rob or however else. There's so many spreadsheets going on right now. It's disrupting the operations of the village. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick that once we take a look at the budget here next month, we'll have a much better handle on things, and we'll be able to, get a plan together and figure out what we need to do. If we need to go out and get another levy or do something, but we'll have a much better picture of it here shortly. So, but thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Rob, did you want to add anything? Are you okay?
No, I think, to build on what Tim said, I think it would be great. I would be happy to volunteer to meet with, an appropriate sized location, all the different people. Let's go through the numbers. Let's go through that. And Tony, if you want to be there, I'm happy, But
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm happy to volunteer to go through that.
Tony should be.
Yeah.
I think he's done a heck of a job, and he knows these numbers, and no disrespect to anybody else, but he's the one that looks at those numbers. And when we come here every year at the beginning of the year, he knows what we have available for us to be able to make our purchases through the permanent improvement or whatever else.
Sure.
So, I think Tony should be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a committee of the whole, whatever it needs to be.
Sure.
But we just
No, we ought to have a heart to heart.
invite
about some
all,
stuff.
everyone in the village, all the employees to come and put forth any ideas, suggestions, and maybe we can come to a determination or a solution to the problem.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's pay the bills. I need a motion and a second to pay the bills.
Oh.
Did I get a second? Did I give me a second in there?
Second.
Avia's got a second.
I was muted, sorry, I seconded.
I already got it. You're too late.
Nobody wants to unmute themselves.
All right, Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo, Maggie, are you on?
Hi, sorry, I was muted.
That was an awesome face, Maggie.
That face was priceless.
Priceless.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, let's pay the bills. All right, it looks like we've got 2 committee reports.
Yeah, from the Rules and Laws Committee, we got review of Marymount Village Code of Ordinances and prohibiting mayor and council from sitting on the Architectural Review Board. The Rules and Law Committee met on Friday, May 22nd, 2020 at 3:00 p.m. Present at the meeting were Committee Chair Maggie Palazzolo, committee members Rob Bartlett and Marcy Lewis, and Mayor Bill Brown. The meeting began at 3:00 p.m. to discuss the review of Marymount Village Code of Ordinances and prohibiting mayor and council from sitting on the Architectural Review Board. The first topic was reviewing and updating the Marymount Village Code of Ordinances. Maggie Palazzolo updated the committee, stating that the list of potential changes is long. Changes have been suggested by various committee members and current and prior council members. Examples include updating the language about bicycles on sidewalks, the requirement of having a dog catcher, and other items. More will surface as we review the code. The discussion today is to agree on a methodology for the review. Some committee members who have the legal skills and are familiar with the code have offered to help. Maggie suggested that we enlist their help as well as review the code ourselves and begin to put the items that need to be changed into committees. Prioritization of items will be based on financial impact to the village, quick fixes that are simple and glaring errors or loopholes in the existing code, such as the demolition language currently in the Economic Planning and Zoning Committee. The committee recommends beginning the review. The next topic was prohibiting mayor and council from sitting on the Architectural Review Board, the ARB. However, that is not the goal of the meeting. The goal is to clarify the rules for the ARB and how the mayor and council fit into that. Currently, there is no code setting rules for how the mayor or council members sitting on the ARB act as the appeal board members. After discussion, the committee recommends the following changes be made to the rules for the ARB. Number 1, the mayor and only one council member may sit on the ARB. Number 2, the mayor and council member sitting on the ARB must vote on any issue that comes before the board. The vote may be to abstain. Number 3, the mayor and the council member sitting on the ARB may not vote as part of the appeal board if the issue is appealed, even if he or she has abstained on the ARB vote. Number 4, the mayor may not serve as the chair of the ARB. And number 5, in any case, the mayor will not be the tiebreaker for any issue coming before the appeal board. The meeting was concluded at 4:09, respectively submitted and signed by Maggie Palazzolo, Chairman, Marcy Lewis, and Rob Bartlett.
All right, you've heard the report. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the report?
So moved.
A second.
And
Oh,
Avia,
first,
you got a
sorry.
second? All right, any discussion on this?
So it doesn't actually put this into effect. This is because we have to go change the code book for some of
Right.
this, right? So this is just sharing the position. There's a separate step that needs to go on for that.
So you need that.
I guess Bill and I raised the point, the only caveat we had on this was we both felt that the Architectural Review Board should be able to choose whoever they want as chairman.
Mhm.
All members vote the same. The chairman doesn't inherently have any more power. That's one point that was a little bit disagreed upon, but it's not a complete deal breaker, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I'm currently not sitting in, I refuse to sit as the chair, and I know Maggie, I know she's not, this is not, aiming at me. This is for future mayors, I would assume.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm not going to object to any of this right now, that's for sure. So we all good on roll call?
Aye.
Mr. Bartlett, Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, we'll accept that report. Next one.
All right, from the Safety Committee regarding the vapor sanitation machine. The safety committee met on May 26, 2020 at 4:00 p.m. Present at the meeting were committee chairman Avia Graves, committee member Kelly Rankin, John Schippenberg. The meeting began at 4:00 p.m. to discuss purchasing the vapor machine. John and his team have come up with several other more cost-effective methods to sanitize and wipe down needed surfaces. Recommendation is to not purchase the vapor machine at this time. Respectively submitted and signed by Avia Graves, chairman, Maggie Palazzolo, and Kelly Rankin.
All right, you've heard the report. Do I have a motion and a second to accept the report?
So moved.
Second. Second.
Any discussion on this? I think this was a no-brainer on this one.
Right, yeah, and John was in complete agreement too, so.
Well, and actually, I believe he's actually moved on to some other devices, and I believe Tim has actually been helping with this.
Yeah.
That'll be every bit as effective and way less costly.
Agreed.
All right. Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo.
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, I'll accept that report.
Quit moving around.
Who?
Marcy and Avia.
Calm down, I think we're all right.
Their squares are moving. I feel like I'm watching this warped version of the Brady Bunch.
My squares are staying just the same, so.
Mine too.
All right,
I don't
moving
know
on,
what's going on with your computer, Kelly.
moving on to miscellaneous.
Oh, can I just say something real quick?
Of course,
Not one more thing.
of
I
course.
just want to make a comment regarding one of the items in the Public Works Committee regarding the CRA. The CRA Housing Council. I want to start this conversation again. I sent everybody, well, I sent I believe the committee, the members that would comprise a housing council. And I know a couple of people who are interested in being on it. The mayor appoints 2 people, council appoints 2 people, planning commission appoints 1 person, and then those 5 people get 2 additional members. And I'm just wondering, I'd like to throw out there if there's anybody that you think might be interested in being on this. I've talked to Matt Ayer and he is, and I'm hoping that Eric Wellinghoff might, since he lives in the CRA. But just asking you guys if you might know of anybody or approach somebody that might be interested in doing this. Or could be forced to.
Depends on the force.
Yeah. Persuasive.
Hey, Kelly, what does the CRA council do? I mean, what are they supposed to do?
Basically, they are supposed to make an annual inspection of the properties in the CRA to ensure that they're maintaining the properties up to, the standards that are called out for in the CRA abatement. So it's basically just going up and, I mean, you don't have to like go in and inspect anything. You just have to basically do a walk by or a drive by and make sure that everything's being kept up to par. And then that information, basically a casual report is provided to the building commissioner, who then is required to submit a report by March 31st to the county. That's it.
Okay. Do you have any idea what skill sets we might be looking for somebody to serve on this council?
I don't think there's really a whole lot of, other than being able to see and walk. I mean, it's basically, Joe, yeah, I don't think there's a specific skill set. It's just somebody who's willing to like look at a property, like say, for example, now Dave Weingarten has gotten the CRA abatement. So basically going out, looking at his house, saying, okay, yeah, looks like everything's being maintained. There's no blight going on, and just reporting back to building commissioner saying, yes.
There's a stated set of criteria that you would take with you, like a checklist if you wanted. It's clear.
Yeah, I don't have that, but I imagine that the county would be able to provide us with one.
Yeah, we would definitely want those people to have that.
Yeah.
And then, so whoever walks a lot, maybe people who are out and about, Kelly?
Who walks a lot?
I don't know.
I know of 2 people on council that walk a lot. But I'm not really, That's a
I don't
good
think we
point,
should
though,
double
Mike, because I don't know if council can appoint other council people.
I don't think it should overlap like that. We're doing everything we can throughout the village to un-overlap all this leadership. So I don't
Right.
think that's a great idea. But I do think that those who we encounter every day who are also walking a lot would be prime candidates.
Would it make sense to send some notice out to let people know that this opportunity is available for somebody who wants to volunteer for it?
Yeah.
Because
and
it sounds like you really don't need to have very specific skill sets to do this, and it gives an opportunity for somebody to do, volunteer for the village that,
Yeah.
Right,
you don't have to be an architect, you don't have to be, different skill sets.
right. Didn't we do that?
Yeah, we kind of did that, and I don't think there was much of a response is the problem. I mean,
Well, it went out on Nextdoor Marymount.
okay.
Did it?
The skill set is that you're breathing, unfortunately. That to Maggie's point, I think, we could develop a list and try to get that out there and try to get better volunteers.
Yeah.
Let me ask this, where are we in this, Kelly? I mean, is this something that we're actively picking back up? I thought this was sort of
Well, we have to.
we have to?
Comply. You got to comply with the Ohio Revised Code. and
Okay.
stuff.
All right.
Yeah, and I think, once that we can get this set up, structured, get that taken care of, that's one thing off the checklist, and then we can tackle the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, and weren't there two, like when we met way back, and I thought we were gonna be finished at that point, but there were two boards discussed in that same kind of little piece of paper, where one is with regard to the things we're talking about here, the houses. And then one dealt with commercial property, which
Right.
obviously would be that actually really would be a different skill set. It had a lot kind of different charter. But
Yeah.
are we working on that also? Probably should.
Probably, but yeah, I mean, I don't recall the specifics of that. But I know it involves county commissioners. I guess
Yeah,
I mean,
I think the mayor
it's
appoints
definitely bears discussion. However, at this point in time, we don't have the need for the tax incentive review board, and hoping and, working with Marcy's committee, we can hopefully have a reason to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think isn't it required to comply also though? That's my point.
Yeah, and we did give the theater got an abatement.
Okay,
Long time ago. Yeah.
long time ago.
If we would like to,
How long- Go ahead, Megs.
sorry, if we do want to develop anything more exciting, like we've kind of sort of thrown around down in those properties nearer to Keebler, that would be a great tool to have to offer if we want to diversify. Or, I mean, we're going to need to do something. So this would be great to have so that we don't look disorganized if we start in negotiations with someone.
I remember like Charlie Thomas was pretty involved in that stuff back in the day. I don't know if you want to reach out to him,
Okay,
in the real estate business.
He did commercial, didn't he? Maybe.
I think so.
He's a good guy.
Mhm.
A real good
Yeah.
guy. All right, we all happy with that?
thank you for allowing me to speak.
You're welcome. All right, moving on to miscellaneous. Village offices will be closed Friday, July the 3rd in observance of Independence Day. The budget hearing will be on Monday, July the 13th. We're going to have that at 5:30. Tony, you going to be ready?
I don't have any other choice. Yeah, I'll be ready.
All right, now Avia, this is kind of for you. I understand there have been some emails regarding safety down on Settle.
Sure.
You've had some correspondence with a couple of residents down there. I know the chief has. I've had a phone call, in fact. I'm kind of thinking, if you address the emails, you want to put this into your committee to handle this?
Well, I thought it was just an opportunity to bring it up and talk about it tonight. And you just asked that if we're going to bring up a topic to try and let you know in advance if we could.
Sure.
I don't know, the most recent, email, and Kelly and I have both been, responding back. I know you have as well, Bill, and I know the chief's been involved with traffic speed, trying to track how fast people are going and monitoring it. But the concerns, I still keep getting the emails of the concerns about cars traveling too fast. You know, the street is narrow. There was an incident. What prompted this email was an incident where someone hit a couple of the cars, right?
Parked car.
Yeah, parked cars. Yes.
Mhm.
And, you know, I don't know what else we can do, right?
We did send the speed truck down there though, right? To sort of get a database or a record of what the traffic count was, what the average speed was.
When
Right,
was
I did-
that? Recently?
I don't know. I'm asking, did we
Oh.
do that? Or are we going to do that?
Maggie, you're on mute.
Sorry. Okay, so a couple of years ago, I worked with Chief and we put the speed trailer in places during a week-long period, morning and evening, and looking at each direction of the traffic. And there is a bunch of data. Actually, I forget who went through it for us, but I know that Chief probably has the paperwork still from the speed trailer. It was probably, I want to say 3 years ago-ish. The only reason I would suggest that that might be even more valid than today is that we had normal traffic patterns, whereas right now we do not have normal traffic patterns. And additionally, I'm hearing constantly that the speed issues are much worse right now because there is less traffic on the road, so people are flying around. I don't know how to address that. But as far as traffic count and average speed on an average day, that old data is probably more useful than something measured tomorrow while half the people are still home from work, working from home. But the speed issue is a different issue. So I don't know.
Yeah. And I don't know that if it's been done more recently than that or not. I haven't spoken to Chief specifically about that piece. I know what they you know, ideally would like their street to be closed off. You know, they're not too keen on speed humps, you know, because again, not saying that that's necessarily potentially an option because there are issues with that too. I just don't know what to tell them in terms of a next step. Like I don't really know what else potentially we can do. So I just thought I'd bring it to, you know, council instead of responding back to this most recent email, just to see kind of what, you know, what thoughts were. And, you know, when you keep getting emails about the same topics and you try to address things, but yet you just don't seem to make it anywhere, I just thought it would be worth bringing for discussion.
Yeah, I know it's an issue that goes back years. I know, because I mean, to Maggie's point, I think it was about 2 years ago. Maggie, remember we were all down there and had a bit of a powwow at the end of the street, and the issue about closing off the street, the speed bumps, humps. That was all sort of discussed, and
Yeah.
it seems like we sort of have this discussion, and then it doesn't go anywhere. We don't do anything.
Well, and I think the issue would have been different. I mean, this is me speaking with no research right now, but I don't see it as a viable option to close off Settle right now for two reasons. One being that Fairfax closed off everything but Watterson.
Right.
So really there's Settle before Fairfax and Watterson in Fairfax, and then that, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a little street that curves around right after the mainliner. It's the last place you can turn right before you get on the Parkway. That's it. That's the only way to go through. And so I do believe that there would be a pretty intense uptick on the very few other through streets that Marymount has, and they go through the historic district and the square, which is obnoxious. If we were to close Settle, I think it might be worth trying to work with Fairfax to see if they would open something and let us kind of have a filter through them.
You know, I think something that would probably help would, if we have this historical data, we should probably pull that out as well, you know, because again, to me, it's not just one street, right? Because we've got to create principles. And when you have principles, you say, okay, here's our basis, here's our threshold, where we're going to set. And we need to have more data than just one street. I know Petoskey's collecting data right now, and maybe there's other streets that are fairly busy that we should be just understanding what is a quote unquote busy street, and what are the speeding that's going on in some of the streets and stuff like that. So we have a broader set of criteria and understanding of the data about what exists out there today. And to your point, Maggie, the first place I would go is, okay, what did we gather before? Let's pull together all the historical data we have and the current data we're collecting and start to understand what looks to be normal versus abnormal type of thing that needs to be.
I mean, we could easily send the speed truck, back down there, intermittently and just to get some fresh data.
In the short term though, can we just enforce the speed?
There you go.
Well,
That's a really helpful thing. Honestly, and this was my point years ago when we talked about this, is if you intermittently and unpredictably put a police officer who is not going to issue a warning on that street, that is called general deterrence. You act a lot better when the odds are that you're going to fly by a police officer before you realize it and then get a ticket. I mean, people are like, ooh, speed traps are called speed traps for a reason. People are like, oh, they police that. I should probably behave myself. And so if this is a real problem, I think it's worth our money to put an officer down there every so often and just random times a day, sometimes at noon, sometimes at morning rush, sometimes at evening rush, facing, whichever direction he feels like that day, just to be there.
Yeah.
Easily talk to the chief. I mean, if we can do that.
These violations can be blatant. I mean, last week, just down in Miami Bluff, there was a carload full of younger people and they blew that stop sign at the intersection of Center. They had to be going 40. It was dusk. There's walkers. I did an old lady yell at them.
That'll do it.
You youngins. Like that.
But I don't think I could extend my jurisdiction all the way to South.
All right, look, I'll talk.
I think that's a good point to start, because if people know that they could get a ticket, they're going to be more cognizant.
I'll talk.
Well, yeah, and if you're going
Or know
to
that there's a possibility they could get a ticket. That's all.
even if we did a car down there,
It needs to have a person in it for every so often.
well, you get a, never mind.
Like you sat that, we sat that one in the school and people are like, oh yeah, they sit that car in the school to make sure they think there's a cop there. But they figured it out.
I fool somebody.
Only have to fool them once.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I think we've, like I said, I'll talk to the chief and we'll see what develops.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Still in miscellaneous, I got an email a while back from Courtney Sheezer, and regarding the cut-through pathway, up to the high school from the Hiawatha Rembold median, the one that kind of goes along that tree line. And it's in horrible disrepair, as I understand it. And he would like to know if there's, a way that we could partner up with the high school. Part of it is on their land and some of it is on our land. And he wants to, know if there's a way that we can refresh that or, repave it or something like that. I think there is, especially because now that all the construction is going on, probably the high school is going to look at least doing their portion of it. And maybe we should consider doing our portion of it. This might be something that we don't have to contract out. I think this is something that probably John could do in-house. I think this might be a committee assignment. Kelly.
Why don't we just tell John to do it?
Well, I think you should look at it, get
Yeah,
some public input, and we'll do it that way. We'll go ahead and put it into your committee. There's no real rush on this. They're not going to be done with the construction up there for quite a while yet.
right.
I
I wonder if it's getting any traffic now.
I doubt it.
What traffic?
School
There's
session.
with no school in session, I doubt.
Well, yeah, but people still walk up there.
Yeah, people still walk up there. They might, yeah.
I'll put Matt on it.
Okay, there could be a sort of a safety aspect here too. If the pathway is in bad disrepair, it could be a trip hazard. I think it should be looked at.
Mhm.
Yeah. Even if who knows, we may not end up doing anything, but let's take a look at it. All right, so then, like I said, I'm going to put that in your committee, Kelly.
I'll get John up there tomorrow.
You don't have much. All right, now what I'm going to do on this next one, we've got some information here that's been out there for a time from the Ohio Municipal League, and this is regarding, some of the CARES grant loan money situation. It looks as though some of this, there may be more money out there available to municipalities, especially municipalities with smaller populations like we have. And Rob has sort of picked up the ball on this, and I know Ed has provided some additional information. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Rob and let him basically explain the situation where we are with this.
Well, I don't know, Ed, I know you did some research on Sunday, you said. I mean, you provided us also the template for, do you want to go first? Do you want to
No, go ahead.
So
Thank you.
I think I forwarded you guys some additional information that Frost Browntown already had available. So now my understanding, I got a better understanding of this now. It appears it is a grant, because Bill had asked that question, is this a grant or a loan?
Right.
It's a grant, but it has to be used on specific expenses. So, and it has to be COVID-19 related expenses for the most part. So, and the other criteria it has in here is it shouldn't have been in our base budget. So this is incremental work, and I know Tim's been doing a whole bunch of stuff that's incremental. So that this would cover. So this doesn't cover just the normal, the EMS and the police, fire, everything else like that. But if there's incremental costs that we've had to incur, this would help cover that. So I think it's going to require, from what the stuff that we've received so far from OML and others, we have to pass an ordinance.
I think it's a resolution.
Resolution. Thank you. Yes, it's a resolution. We're gonna have to. You have to go online. I don't know, Joni, if you've seen. I've never seen that before. It's DUNS. This DUNS number, and it's a grant. You have to go onto this online system and apply. So I've never. Yeah. So this is new stuff for me in terms of how that works. But the first step is really the resolution that says we're gonna, we'll ask for the money. We'll follow the rules that they've laid out, that we have to, how the money can be spent. We have up until October, is it October 30th? It's sometime in October that it has to be encumbered. And then by the end of the calendar year, if we haven't spent, whatever we haven't spent, we return, we give it back.
Mm-hmm.
So again, no harm, no foul. It's not a loan. It is truly a grant. I would recommend that we start going down this path. I mean, to be clear, the Ohio House has only passed this. The Senate so far has not passed it. So it's not law yet. OML said that they recommended, I forwarded that also to you guys, that, they act immediately when the members of OML act immediately once it becomes available. And they've actually already, they've used the same process they use for passing out the, LGA funds, Tony, something like that, the local government, something.
I'm not sure what,
Yeah.
It's
So
in the PPP, I know that it's
yeah.
for non-governmental places.
Yeah, they're using the same allocation methodology.
Oh, okay. Oh, for the okay.
Yeah, there's LGA, I think, or something like that. So it's $62,000.
Yeah, the LG local government funds. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to follow the same allocation methodology. So we could get up to $61,940 for that. So again, right now, I think that we should at least start down this path. It doesn't hurt to do this kind of work in advance. I think we should start to ask, like the defogger. That's something that was not built into the budget. The thing that Sherp ended up buying.
Yeah, the Lucas device, you mean?
Well, I don't know.
Oh,
Again,
you mean this? Yeah, no.
the thing that we got
yeah,
instead of that
yeah,
vaporizer
Yes,
thing
yes,
that
yes,
the
yes.
safety
Right,
committee
right,
just
right.
said no on.
I'm sorry.
So, but any of those kind of things, anything that's incremental cost that we had to do because of COVID-19 and that was not already reimbursed some other way, like FEMA. We can't double dip, no double dipping, but we should be able to, check if there's any kind of overtime cost, if there's, there's a list of expenses here that had, suggestions of things that could count. So
Yeah, Rob, I did a little bit of research on this afternoon, and let's say, for example, like John wipes a bunch of stuff down, and the people at the pool this summer are going to have to take time and be wiping stuff down. That's like an incremental cost, but it can't be something you already budgeted for. So let's say, for example, the police. Let's say we budgeted, $500,000 for a quarter, and they come out at 525 or 530. So that extra 30 could be used for this. You could use that money for that type of purpose. It's something that's not already budgeted.
right.
Okay.
So I-
Can I ask a quick question on that, Tony? I mean, when you say something wasn't budgeted, we had certain tasks that were budgeted in the original budget. And if somebody is now spending their time on other tasks, that really wasn't budgeted. You're shifting,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
those
included
costs
as
around.
well. That is also included. They gave a couple examples and some stuff I was reading. So stuff that you shift from one area to another that's definitely COVID-19 related is expendable. under this
So
program.
clearly what we need to do is ask our employees to track any time they're spending on COVID response. So it qualifies for this reimbursement.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I think it's asking the department heads to help us out in terms of how can we track this stuff. Again, and it's not just people time, it's also supplies that we're spending on and things like that. Overtime, if there's overtime related to that, or also they even said if people have to take time off because of COVID related stuff.
And from what I read, it's mostly on the honor system. I don't think anybody's really going to be doing a audit on these numbers, but you know, you don't want to cheat anybody out either though.
But didn't we
It's kind of a
have,
soft area.
I thought we had one of the police officers had to stay home because somebody in her family was potentially exposed. So would that count?
Joni's saying no. Joni is saying no, that's not the case. Well, not that you couldn't claim that.
That
but
could
didn't
happen, but that didn't happen.
Okay, but again, if you had that scenario, if somebody
Yes.
couldn't come to work
Yes, that's
because
included.
somebody in her family was exposed or
Yep.
potential of exposure, we've been very conservative on hey, stay home until we figure it out type thing.
Yep. No, it says expenses of providing paid sick and paid family and medical leave to public employees to enable compliance with COVID-19 public health precautions. So yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we just need to track this stuff is what it sounds like. So we can submit a good number.
So again, I would recommend that we go ahead and start the process. Ed has already drawn up the resolution
Yeah.
for us, which is one of the first steps. Yeah, for next time. Well, I don't know. Let's ask Ed. Ed,
Can we do it now, Ed?
I think you can, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things, Bill and I were talking earlier today. I think that since everyone is obviously going to be in favor of our doing this, I think we can do it today. I'm curious, so is there that big of a rush, Rob? One of the questions I had here was, when is the Senate going to approve it, if they will? Do you have any idea on that?
no, I just heard that it was going back. That OML newsletter talked about how it was going back to the Senate, and they were going to try and again, they are trying to get it passed sooner rather than later. They're trying to get it as quickly as possible.
I would think
They acknowledged something, and I don't know enough about how this part of government works, so forgive me, but it sounded to me like they were about to pull some kind of escape lever where it didn't need to go to the Senate, that the state house was going to have what they had a legal term for it, like some kind of special conversation wherein a small group of them would be able to pull it through. I don't understand how that would be, but they mentioned that, and it said specifically the state Senate may not meet on it because this other thing may happen. I've never heard of it before. So it does sound like someone's in a hurry just to get the money to people, but I don't know.
Certainly can't hurt us.
Yeah.
Hurt us to position ourselves though to be ready to move on it.
Yeah.
It seems to me
I
that
think a lot of other states have already passed legislation on this already, and they're already moving forward.
I mean, this money seems to go quickly, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden somebody else grabbed at it and we didn't, or I think let's just go ahead and position ourselves.
I agree.
Yeah, because there's still other steps that we have to take. So if we just pass the resolution,
Right.
that doesn't
Yeah.
commit us to anything at the stage.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Do you have a copy of it, Ed? Or I mean, Tony, do you have a copy of it?
Yes.
Okay, so can we have the first reading then?
Resolution regarding CARES Act loan.
That's it.
Is that?
Yeah, that's all.
Is that what we're gonna call it? Okay. Okay, you've heard the first reading. I need a motion and a second.
But it's not a loan, right?
It's not. You're right. That's a very good point.
It's a
Marcy.
grant.
It is.
Yep. So we really shouldn't call it that.
Are we calling it that, or did somebody give us that title?
Was that in the?
It's in-
It might have been in the template they provided. Do you remember it come down that way?
Yeah, it's a CARES Act loan program. Is that what you're talking about?
Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure we called it the right thing.
Yeah, no, I think there wasn't in the template from OML, there was not, it just had a placeholder to say, put in your own title. So but I agree with what you're saying, Marcy. Just call it grant instead of loan.
Fine. Yeah, what you can do, since we're gonna do the first reading tonight, maybe we can study this thing a little bit deeper for the next time when we have the second reading, and then we can make any amendments at that time.
So we're not doing an emergency then? We're just gonna have the first reading?
I don't, that's up to you guys. I don't know how soon we need to do it. If you think we need to do it, let's do it as an emergency.
Yeah, but there's other stuff.
Here's what we could do.
I mean, we could do the second and third reading the next time, right?
Yeah, can I just add, I think it's critical at this point that we communicate to the employees to start tracking their time, because we think this is coming. And
Okay,
that's the piece that, it's hard to go back and remember, okay, where did I shift my time that I'm working on a COVID related event? So we should make sure that's done immediately. So we set ourselves up to be able to respond to this when it passes the Senate. So I would tend to agree with Ed. I don't think we need to pass this tonight because it's not even through the Ohio Senate yet.
Yeah, and it's not just payroll stuff too. It's the supplies too. So it's
So save receipts, track time.
Yeah, and Tim is sitting here giving me the look. I mean, I know that probably he's already, he's kept a good track of this already. So sort of getting our guys up to speed is, not going to be a monumental
yeah,
task.
but it's the other people too. Like
Yeah, it's the other
John
people
and,
too.
you know,
True.
You know,
Right.
Joni has anything, so
Right.
you've done.
People down at the pool.
Yeah.
Yep. So
All right. So we had the first reading. Then we'll pick it up. You guys got to remember though, in 2 weeks at our next council meeting, we have that council meeting and then we don't have one for 3 weeks.
Right.
So we should probably consider having our ducks in a row come the next council meeting and
Do you want that one?
and we'll pass it then as an emergency.
Yeah.
you could do that. And I think maybe somebody sort of make an amendment right now that we call the resolution regarding the CARES Act grant as opposed to loan. And so then when we have the second reading next time out, if everyone's in agreement and if the Senate has in fact passed it, we'll go ahead and pass it on an emergency basis at that time. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's good.
Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome. Okay.
I have one more thing. Are we there yet?
No, we're not there yet. We got a couple. We're going to do a couple. We got a resolution.
Oh,
And
sorry, I lost track. Yep.
let's do the one resolution. Tony, you good? It's the
Yeah.
first meeting.
All right, to authorize Ohio Department of Transportation to proceed with various traffic signal signing and pavement marking upgrades on US 50 Worcester Pike, located on the eastern corridor, section 23 PID number 112171, county/route/section Hamilton Eastern Corridor, VAR, TSG, and enter into contract.
Okay, you've heard the first reading. We'll have the second reading next council.
Can I ask one quick question? Would it be possible to get a quick synopsis of what we're actually approving here? It's pretty vague what the title is. I have no idea what traffic signal signage and pavement marking upgrades are. I don't know if in
Yeah. hey,
council
Joe,
meetings before I joined, I'm not sure if you went through this at some point, but I have no idea.
I'll have Chris send you over his notes or whatever he has on it.
Okay, just a quick summary, just so
And a summary.
so I
of
know
what we have.
I know what I'm signing off on here. All right.
So is this related to the paving at all?
Actually, what this is really related to, the traffic signals down at the square. They want to put those, I don't know whether you've noticed it, a more modern signal where they have a yellow border that goes around it. It's a reflective border, that it frames the light itself. That is in part what we're talking about here. But
Okay.
I'll have Chris, send you his notes.
So I got, because I thought it might be related to that. I have a quick question then. We were going to get bids, weren't we, for doing the cross sections?
Yeah,
and also?
well, it's good. Okay, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, Kelly and I did get, we got the bid from the original contractor that's going to be doing the work, and they obviously do not want to do the work. And then we went ahead to get a second bid, so we'd have a comparison. The first bid from the contractor, the ODOT contractor, was like, Kelly, am I correct on this? I think it was 30,000.
Yeah,
And the second bid from an independent contractor was 20,000. And Chris and I sort of had a discussion about that. I think what we probably shall do is just wait until we have our next paving project, and we'll get that work incorporated into, into one bid for whatever paving the guy's doing. I mean,
So
unless
that's
you
Did we
guys
not
like,
throw it in this last one? I thought we talked about throwing it in this last one.
what do you mean, in the Petoskey bid?
Yeah, didn't we send a bid out and it had 2 or 3 different things in it?
I don't think that was in it.
I thought we talked about doing that. Okay.
I mean, it might have been talked about, but I don't think it was bid.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we're in a position right now to, I mean, I would love to do it. I mean, those parking areas are bad. They're going to be paving the pike and all that type of thing. It'd be great to do it now,
Right,
but it's
after that,
$20,000.
right.
What do we think the timing, of that pavement being done?
Well, the ODOT paving is going to happen probably in July.
Yeah, they're supposed to be done by the end of July, I think.
I think, they're going to grind it off, repave, and they've already, all that ramp work curb work, you've been seeing them do it. That's in preparation as part of the job.
Right.
When do we think we'll have any type of pavement work to be able to throw that in for another bid?
Well, I mean, we got potentially Petoskey coming up next year.
So it would be April again.
Yeah, it would be April again. I mean, it seems a shame not to do it, while you've got all of this torn up out there and so on and so forth.
But 30,000 is 30,000.
Well, it's 20,000 if we go with the independent bid.
Yeah, my point is it's still 20,000.
Yeah, it still is. Although Rob has found us potentially maybe 15,000 in that license plate fund.
Well, there you go.
So,
So if we can get somebody to pitch in the other 5, we're all set.
yeah.
Would it be potentially even worth going back to the people that are the contractor for ODOT to say, hey, we got another bid, it was 20,000. Will you do it for that? I mean,
Obviously you can ask anything, I mean,
worth it.
maybe it would be worth it. I could find out. I mean, if you all are so inclined that we could do this or should do this.
It just seems like such a shame that everything's going to be repaved and then it's going to be probably a year if we're lucky.
Blacktop down there that is in really bad shape. And by the way, I mean, the 20,000 was not just a recoat. I mean, they're going to grind what is there and put down 2 inches of fresh blacktop. It would be a good, it'd be a quality job. So, well, let me do this. Let me get back with Chris and inquire with him, if the ODOT guys would maybe reconsider their bid. And we can talk about the next council if have something back. Is everybody good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Don't let your enthusiasm run away with it.
I have a question. Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I mean, what's the advantage of having ODOT over an outside contractor do it?
Well, they've got all the equipment there. I mean, they're grinding off the main road as it is. They could easily go through those parking areas. And then the one advantage would be when you pave it all back, you have a very, very clean, smooth transition between the parking area and the roadway. No bumps, no humps.
That'd be nice. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the ordinances.
The first one to amend ordinance O-11-20 of the Marymount Code of Ordinances to increase payment for employees and to effect changes to full-time employees' health care plans.
All right, that was the third reading on that. I need a motion and a second to accept the ordinance.
So moved.
So I have a second.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett,
Aye.
Mrs. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Palazzolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Rankin,
Aye.
Mr. Stelzer.
Aye.
All right, we'll pass that ordinance. All right, Tony, the last one.
Last one, ordinance amending section 32.13 of the Marymount Code of Ordinances, Rules of Council, section A, Rule 1.
All right, that's the
Council meeting time.
reading. We'll have the second reading next time. All right, I hesitate to ask, but is there one more thing?
I don't have a thing exactly.
Aye.
This is Joni for Joni. With regard to the item that is in bold, that's called review MCO code. So I need that to stay on the agenda. Just turn it back into not bolded, and then adjust the date to, I guess, I don't know, end of July 2020, because this is going to be the ongoing review of code. We already have a list of things we are going to have in our next meeting, but I mean, we're doing this, so it's still in there.
Phase 2 target, right?
Is this even phase 2? Sure. We're going to have a lot of phases.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So I guess this is the one where they started talking. There's actually now, there's a 42-minute